All right, let's jump into it. We got Friday, NFP Friday. We've just got Asia session sort of getting underway now. So, firstly, just have a look at DXY because oh my God, what a session overnight! Like these wicks back and forth is just the combination. It's just basically it's just frustration in a chart. It's sort of like whipping people out this way, whipping people out this way for hours and hours and hours. It just before it sort of like gave up this sort of like I guess it sort of gave up the second sort of rising support, but basically this was the horizontal that it was just respecting a lot. And this, of course, I've got it marked out. This was the FOMC pivot point support area. Sorry, just over here is the FOMC. So this was earlier in the week, which sort of springboarded it up. So this is somewhat important, but the big one that I've been sort of harping on about all week is this big blue line through the middle here, and you can see it play its part time and time again. So it's offered some really good sort of sort of basically counter trades. As this has sort of come into this zone here, and we sort of saw it with like, I know Aussie's not part of DXY, but it does move with the US dollar strength and weakness. So, sort of popping out there, we had Aussie running about sort of, I think, 50 points and that just off this move. We had silver and gold really sort of firing back up off their lows. Well, silver more so. Gold's still lagging, but I'll get to gold in a moment. But yeah, so it's interesting sort of to sort of see where we're going here because we've got a little bit of this flag setting up, and obviously it's tried to pop out here earlier in the week, smacked on the nose, hit, and then smacked again right down to the bottom side of this sort of potential sort of channel. And really, here we are. So now just sort of notice it a bit more. Chuck on the 4 hour, might be able to see it a bit better. We're back at support, that rising trend. So if we mark this one out here, we can see that starting from down here, we've had a couple of touches through here, a couple here as well. And here we are back here again. So this is what I've been saying the last couple of days that, this is you're going to get a bit of a confluence through this area because if people are trading this flag, well, they're at the bottom side of the channel. They're like, yep, we can give it a shot here. People that have been waiting for it to come back to this trend line, they're like, yep, here's my shot again to sort of continue it here, which is fine. We'll sort of have to sort of see how it plays out. It's pretty oversold here. This is on the 4 hour. So, there's a couple of reasons, a confluence at least here of these two. The horizontal's been given up, as we can see there, but certainly it's still finding some sort of buying, or at least, enough sort of to stop selling around this point right here. So, I mean, we can see, boom, it's really come into its zone here. So if we can break down further out of here, then I think we've got this little horizontal through the well, not through the horizontal here, the previous highs. This could sort of offer a little bit of a base as well, but I would say sort of like pretty much we would be looking at something along the lines of down to here, a bit of a bounce back up, and then down here, and obviously this little zone through here will be our sort of this will be our sort of confirmation. Obviously, not this exact cent mark, but the idea is basically as it comes down, that first low, that's our indicator. Come back up, sweep some people out, and then once it comes down and breaks that indicator break, so the initial break of this trend, the second time through, that'll be the one that'll sort of really confirm it coming down here. So we do have NFP tonight, and of course, these things like NFP, these larger data events and that, they can really just, basically they don't respect charts. I mean, they do to a certain extent and maybe like on the extremes, but any of the sort of local sort of areas and zones, like close to sort of where it is, they'll just blow straight through them if the news supports it. Because these sort of things, they're not sort of like normal price flows. They're sort of like, okay, the big people, they're altering their books based on what the data is. So it changes the landscape. And that's why people sort of go, look, you know what, it doesn't fit our criteria on a full macro level. So let's just dump the positions, or let's buy up the positions, or dump the opposing positions, whatever it may be. And that's what gets the big floods of volume and big long sort of shooting candles. That's sort of what's happening with these large sort of data events. So for the here and now, I'm not expecting much. We've got prior to large news events, so NFP tonight. I don't expect us to really sort of be getting a great deal of movement. We got a bank holiday in Japan, bank holiday in China, so that's also going to sort of be slowing down things, at least particularly through Asia. So I would say pretty much in for a slow session. I mean, we could sort of see it fire off the other way, but and sort of see a little bit of a counter move up over here. If we get down onto a lower time frame, we can see that it had a small little gap down this morning, but again, it's into this zone. Previous overnight lows, it's holding it, not able to sort of push down for a lower low, so it's finding a little base support here at the moment. And obviously it's pushed back up just on the open here, close that gap. So, we may see a little range. We could see a breakdown. I don't think we will. I think if anything, range or maybe a little sort of counter trend, sort of US dollar strength to sort of balance it out a little bit, have some people sort of take some profit from those overnight moves. But yeah, certainly at the moment it's looking vulnerable. But given everything that's been happening this week, I mean, look at how choppy this is. Yes, it's moving in a downward, and we had an attempt to break out, and which got smacked on the nose. But they love to sort of fake things out, and that's the thing. We had that news the other day. Um, so bear with me 1 second. What was it? It was like the employment cost index. Um, as I said, this isn't something that I was really had on my radar as to supermarket moving. So that really flew things around. So I mean, these are the things to sort of be aware of. That you know what I mean. If there's normal or sort of slightly abnormal sort of price action around certain data events, particularly sort of when we've got very crucial sort of news coming up, are they trying to sort of flip people out of positions? Like if I'll flick across to equities really quickly actually because I've got a mate that just trading Nasdaq, and we were talking about this yesterday. It was just grinding. Like if you put it on the lower time frame, you can see this coming up here, and I was saying, look, it's a bit wedgy. It doesn't convince you of any sort of super strength here. I actually called this. I'm like, look, I'll come down here, sweep some people out, and then rip back up. I don't really sort of trade indices a great deal, so you know what I mean. I like to chart them just to get an idea of the flow between the different markets. But if you look at this here, as to sort of where it sort of came down to, it blew out here. There's some stops that would have got hit just under here. You actually saw it as it was happening, it goes down, 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 and you can just see because it'll go slow, 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 and then just bang, really quick, and then sort of shoots back up a bit, and that's the stops basically being hit, and then on the other side you can see up the top over here, it's just taken out the highs of the FOMC, it's taken out the lows of the FOMC. So it's really just whipping everybody out of their positions at the moment. So there's some great trades if you get into these sort of things. Like as I said, I don't trade indices, but I caught some on silver. I trade Aussie, obviously. Gold, I've had a couple of good wins this week as well. So, it's really just been such an absolute sort of chop fest all over the place. So it's been quite frustrating to sort of trade. Week's actually been pretty good in terms of returns, but you know what I mean? It's one of these things where it looks like it's breaking down, then all of a sudden, for no reason, it fires straight back up. Even yesterday, we had this bit of excuse me, we had a bit of data out. What was it? It was the unemployment claims. I think that's what it was last night. Yeah, and yeah, we can see here that sort of DXY shot up at first, and then came crashing down, and then just like nothing onto this lower sort of seemingly nothing support, fired straight back up and took out the highs of that move again. But again, into this zone, and this is why I've been marking it out all week. You can see all the way through here how crucial this area has been, and it's played its part on both sides. I mean, admittedly more on the downside of it all, but you can see it was trying to hold it, and then above it uses a springboard. So, they need to get above this sort of 105.90, call it 106 to be sort of super safe, but obviously unable to do that. Sellers stepped in again and just absolutely hammered it down. So, yeah, it's interesting to see where we go from here, but as again, I don't expect a great deal today with NFP coming out tonight. I do think that we are sort of set for a break to the downside, but given the price action this week and the fact that it is still technically in this little flag setup, there's also the chance for this to come and rip all the way back up to the top side over here as well. So it's time to be a little bit lighter on the positions and get ready to sort of hammer it next week once we have a bit more of the direction. Cool. And gold sort of coming down here didn't quite get down to that sort of trigger point down here, but is exactly as we sort of were saying sort of throughout the earlier part of the week. And again, this is why you look left on the charts, because we know that this is an area. You can see it marked out, and this is exactly where it came to. It sort of came down here. I said that this kind of area, as it happens, if you go back and watch the video from, well, it must have been Wednesday, it's Friday now. So if you go back and watch the video from Wednesday, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about here. This bit here, actually, let's make it a circle for what it's worth, so it doesn't get confused with the ranges. These parts here, this is what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of the market going, okay, boom, bear flag, here it is, it comes down here. I've got confirmation in the bear flag here, yes, but because it's a lower low. But these parts here are exactly what happened. Same thing that happened with the Iran bombings. The profits don't belong to the people that wait till after the fact and then sort of take their position. The profits belong to the people that have been shorting it all the way through here, even in the sort of up around the top over here, shorting it through here. These are the people that sort of are due the profits and that. So the people that wait till after the fact, okay, yes, it's made a lower low. Yes, it is probably most likely going down. They're the ones that get squeezed out. And if you watch the video, that's exactly what I said was going to happen. It was going to come back up here. I had 23.10 and 23.20 as the levels that I was expecting it to sort of come up to over there. It's obviously come up to 25, 26 or something, this higher sort of support area over here, so a little bit higher than I thought. And then it's just crushed back down again. But what we are seeing here is that there's not a lower low. So that's something to take note of, that, the sellers were moving it down, but at this stage, that is a higher low. So it's not to sort of say that, we're back in recovery. If you look at this, we're pretty much, if you take this off, you can see we're pretty much just sort of sideways through here now. Yes, they are still technically lower. That one's a lower low than this one, but buyers have sort of at least valued it around this sort of 2280s level, 2290s, enough to sort of say, okay, yes, let's push it back up a bit here. So I don't think, yeah, I don't think we're quite breaking down. But as I said, we've got NFP tonight, so we'll have to sort of wait to sort of see what happens with that. Maybe we can drag this out a little bit more, see if it's respecting this a bit more now. Not sure what happened there, but okay. Anyway, we can fix that chart up again in a little while. Got all over the place. Technical issues. Bang, we'll drag that one up there. So yeah, for now, I don't think we're quite there to sort of break down. NFP will be the sort of catalyst, in my opinion, as to whether we sort of get a break higher, or if we sort of, as I said, take out this sort of 2280 level. I think 2280 is a pretty good sort of $50 move to the downside here, or at least down to sort of 2030, as I've sort of got it marked out over here. So that's where I'll be looking to sort of add to any sort of short positions if we do get underneath this area. Okay, so again, yeah, just to sort of recap on sort of what I think here, I think if anything, we're going to push down, test these sort of mid-90s possibly, but I think this is pretty much just going to stay in a zone through here. Okay, where are we at? Across to Aussie, firing back up to weekly highs, almost back up to weekly. Was that? Yeah, no, Monday tipped up to the A, so not quite there to the weekly highs, but you can see it's certainly fired back into action yesterday. And this is what I sort of say, that sort of like, like Aussie's not part of DXY, of course, but it is, DXY is more, if you take it as a broad sense of US dollar sentiment across the market. When you use it with Aussie, it sort of like can offer a couple of good sort of insights, because you may see Aussie reacting in sync and quite well with a good correlation, or you may sort of see that they're not buying it. They're not buying USD against the Aussie, but they are buying it against the rest of the market. And these can offer little sort of ideas of where you can sort of trade the counter movement with Aussie. But certainly we've seen this thing sort of fire back up here. Since we broke this little channel, came up here, ground through, we had, of course, FOMC, kind of a bit of a stuff around. As I said, that was just that annoyance yesterday. I had a couple of good positions going up through here, and I was like, no, here we go, we're going. As you can see here, unable to sort of close above this zone. This was a previous sort of marked out area that we've seen the sellers have liked to be here previously. We can see it time and time again. We see they were buys here. This is why we mark it out, because it's a point that sort of shows up time and time again, and it doesn't, and particularly on the higher time frames. But we can see that obviously once it sort of did manage to get this close through this area here at 46, Bang, there we go. There's another sort of, almost 30 points that's moved up to the top side. So seeing it sort of just do a little bit of a sort of consolidation up around here. This isn't so bad. We're sort of seeing that, look, you've got your sellers around here. We know that that's happening. What I did say on Monday was that, I mean, my overall thing was that I do believe we're going to get 66 as a touch-up. So that's why I was reluctant to sort of short it through that sort of retail sales data and then obviously that cost index stuff from the US. So, missed a bit of a sort of down, a little bit of sort of quite a strong sort of downtrend channel, but I had been sort of adding to longs. I've been buying it all the way back up through here. So again, I mean, it doesn't matter if you miss part of the trade, as long as, the part that matters, you sort of lock in a bit. So what we're looking for here, same as the start of the week, and I was saying this around retail figures, so that was on the Tuesday video, that, a close above 2080, flipping back and forth from sort of gold and Aussie, but a close above 65.80 will, for me, signal that sellers are a little bit depleted from this area, and I would expect a move up to undo this move over here, which is going way back. That's US CPI from start of the month coming up into this major sort of sell area. And as you can see, this has been quite a strong area, this sort of 22 66.25 odd to 66.60. Like, it's a fairly big area, but it's a high time frame sell down zone. So, that's going to be very tough to sort of break through here if we can sort of get up along there. But first things first, to get up above and to close above 65.80. From there, 66 is the easier target because it's a nice big round number. It's 20 points, but I could also see sort of really moving up to those 66.20s to move through there. We do, as I said, have a little bit of a range sort of opening up here now. So if we put this, there's just a little sort of zone through here. This will be our sort of intraday sort of zone to sort of see what happens. As I said, a little counter trend from DXY from that move down and failure to sort of continue lower because it's coming into that main trend is obviously sort of stalling things a bit here. So we could see a move back down to sort of maybe these sort of breakout areas over here, the 46, before sort of seeing a rally and a push up to the top side. Alternatively, it could just be a super quiet day. As I said, it's a bank holiday in Japan, bank holiday in China. Asia session's going to be quite subdued at best. So I would say we're probably not about to sort of see the breakout here. Either sort of a sort of little range play through here for a bit, or sort of maybe a move back down to retest these 40s before sort of coming up over here. I think certainly if I get an option to buy it down in these sort of 40, 50 area, I'll be sort of taking a stab to at least sort of come back up and test this 80s area. So I think that's the kind of play that I'm sort of looking for today. Okay, flip across. How are the other metals going? We've got copper. Copper through that sort of little main trend here. Well, main trend, sorry, the little more short-term trend. So we are seeing it sort of cool off a little bit. This is a little lower high over here. And this is what we were saying the other day. Was it on the daily? How we have this one marked? Yeah. So we could see this bit. And again, go back, watch the videos. This is where we were sort of saying this is the negative divergence. So it was obviously sort of coming up to a new high here, but the buying pressure wasn't really sort of supporting it. And as such, we had a bit of a continued break to the downside. Look, it's due for a bit of a cool off. It's been ripping. It's 27% now since the lows. That is an enormous sort of move. I mean, we're talking from the lows down here, almost 1,000 points. Excuse me. Yes, it is pretty much 1,000 points to the top side there. So, it's due for a cool off, a little bit of sort of sideways action. Again, see what happens with NFP. I think sort of there is a potential that this goes there and maybe even do a little flick down a little bit lower. And then I do believe at least we'll come back up and retest these highs. Things like this don't really generally sort of tend to sort of just die in one go. Even if they are going to be sending it down, they want to sort of, like, the market likes to screw people out of their positions, particularly if they're early and they're straight technical traders. So say you're shorting here, you've gone, okay, good, I've caught the top, that's beautiful, I'll put my stop right up here, this kind of thing. Put your stop here. They'll sort of go, I mean, they go, okay, fine. Even if they're planning to sort of sell it right down, they'll drive it up here, they'll sort of drag in a whole bunch of more people thinking, oh, the party's going on, the party's going on. They'll clip them and then they'll go bang. Even if they were to go down, generally it's not just going to melt all the way down like this with just one go. They'll sort of stop everybody out first, then they'll sort of drive it back down. But as we've seen a couple of times, if we go back, I don't know if I've still got the charts marked out here, but we have sort of seen a couple of times that, obviously if copper can tend to do little sort of like fake out moves. I think this was the one that we were looking at originally. No, I have to sort of find where it was, but um, it's not uncommon for it to sort of drop out the sort of bottom side of the channel. I think this is how we were originally trading it. So like obviously at this point here, we were like, yep, okay, here we go. Oh no, it's failed, and then it fires back up. Fails, fires back up. So it can sort of tend to do these sort of little fake out things. So long story short, I'm not really too fussed about it. I think we still have some upside movement on it. We are seeing a little bit of a pullback on the RSI here, but it's coming back into a support. So really this can just come back down here till it's sort of oversold a little bit and then start to swing back up. This will get us into this little support area, maybe flick out, hit some more little technical stops that may be sort of like down around these areas here, and then sort of fire back up and sort of back up onto that sort of 470 area. So I think that's pretty much a sort of wait and see at the moment, but I still think that we've got a little bit of upside here. I think sort of particularly if we do see a further sell-off of US dollar, I think this is going to sort of push things up. And I'll flick onto the yuan now because you'll sort of see at the same time, I think this is going to correlate with a stronger yuan as well. And as we can see, bang, that's the breakdown we've been looking for. So this is what I've been calling the last couple of days. Again, if we want to sort of get onto the lower time frames, it wasn't the perfect, what was it, 1 hour, what was it? Yeah, it was here. On the 1 hour, we sort of had this marked out. And this is what I say, sort of like it doesn't need to be a perfect negative divergence like this. You can still see these things as they're setting up. And this is what I was saying, like, price started to move up, almost back up to that same level, but, a considerable lower low on the RSI, and it dribbled, bang, broke, retest, bang, down, and back underneath 720. So really undone that big move that they had a couple of weeks back and really sort of popped right down into these lower zones here. So, I mean, if you look at my sort of videos the last couple of days, I've been calling this breakdown out of this little range. This is what we were waiting for. And you can see that as it sort of came down, a little bit of a sort of back test, of course, but it really just went bang and shot back down. So we're starting to see a potential of this eventual right shoulder coming down here. This is going to be a major, major area. If we get down underneath this level over here, I mean, you can see how long I've been sort of playing it. Like I tend to sort of do these things a little bit early, but you like a little bit of forethought with it. But this is where I was sort of calling, as you can see, the head and shoulders. This is about the time I was like, okay, if this is the head, bang, came down. This is a very strong, this is a weekly support area. We've come up here, we've got our right shoulder now. If we come back down and tap into this area again, and obviously need to break it and close underneath it, we're looking at a considerable sell-off. I have been sort of quite sort of vocal about sort of a US dollar sort of breakdown, and I think with yuan this will happen. This will then sort of correlate with Aussie sort of pushing back up around that sort of 69 cents area. It'll sort of have a couple of other sort of implications in that. I think metals will probably rip a little bit more as well. I think this will sort of give a good sort of idea for more sort of upside on copper as well. So that was a great break to the downside here. As I said, it ranges, it sort of hangs for a bit. This is a strong congestion area through here, and as you can see, these are previous highs, these are levels that we've sort of marked out. They're sitting there. It's not just sort of like picking pot shot levels. Comes right down into it, market taps into it, and now it's obviously had a little bit of a bounce. But we'll sort of see how we go through the rest of the week. Well, basically today and US sessions, and then sort of go from there. One little one that I will chuck on there is this little sort of wedge that I've been sort of trading with silver sort of throughout this week. So as you can see, I mean, it's really sort of popped off. It's sort of like it's been pulling back, but RSI is on, this is on the daily. RSI is ready to turn up from this oversold area. We're getting this tight little wedge sort of coming out here now. Maybe in the 4 hour might be able to see it a bit better. It fired back up, yesterday. And again, into this little area, we know that this is an area, that's why it's marked out. We sort of go back here. These have been some strong sell down areas. So all the people, like the thing with these back tests here is the people that were sort of shorting it around this area, they've shorted it, they've done well, bang, look at this all the way down. They shorted it, bang, they did well all the way down. You know, they've now gone up and gone up. Crap, I mean, sort of underwater. They've sort of really been blown out. I mean, silver was on a rip, sort of coming up 14% or so, you know, for whatever, 14% in change. And now they've got an option to sort of get out for even. Well, they're just going to go bang, okay, let's close it out. You've got the people that have been shorting it through here going, look, it's a reasonable area. And so you've got two segments of the market that both jump on the buy side just to springboard it back up from here. So it's not out of the woods yet. Obviously, it's still in this sort of little wedge sort of coming down here. But even if this were to be the break, and we would like to sort of get it above these sort of swing highs, you got a sort of measured move. This one here, sort of dragged across over here. And that puts you well back up around that 29 area on a positive break. So certainly one to watch on that with metals because a lot of people, even as I was saying before, you know, there is a lot of risk and potential for the downside on gold underneath that sort of 2280 level. But I think certainly if we see DXY give it up, and you know, as we see, the first break is targeting 104, but really I think we're going back down to 100, if not below. So we're going to have to sort of see how that sort of plays out, and this is going to cause the metals to really rip a little bit higher. So a couple of things all sort of lining up at the moment. All right, that's it from me.